Welcome back to day 2. This video is titled, What is Anxiety? But you could actually replace anxiety with stress, with fatigue, with limiting beliefs, with triggers, or hatred, or guilt, or fear, or fibromyalgia, or PTSD, or depression, or an array of other things. So my point is, OCD would be a really easy one to compare, but my point is that if we focus on it as the mind, as the ego, but look at it from an anxiety standpoint, it'll help us get closer to the root of this problem. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I discovered what anxiety truly was through my own self-reflection, through checking in on my intentions, and not in a way that would make me feel guilty of anything, but in a way to see how I am sabotaging myself on a regular basis. Because if you want to change, if you're fully consciously aware, any change would just reflect in that moment. Oh, now all of a sudden I'm KO with better posture, you know? Anything that we'd want to do would be very, very easy to just shift to and stay there, but there's so much more at play here. So by unraveling it from an anxiety standpoint, you're going to get a better understanding of how you're fueling this monster and what it is in relation to all of the things that you do in life. That's the way to put it. So I want to take you back in time to our caveman, Bob. He's the star here, and Bob is digging through the jungle, and there's a Drosophila. Bob is digging through the jungle, and he sees a tiger, and immediately his body goes into fight or flight. Now, you may have heard of a freeze response. That is not... You may have heard of a freeze response. I'm just going to tell you that it's not real. At least when I studied pre-medicine and biology in college, we didn't talk about freeze response, and for good reason. I mean, we wouldn't be here if freeze response was real. The reason why we have a freeze response today is because of being socially awkward. And a lot of anxiety comes from the fear of being socially awkward. You know, you get a lot of tension in a grocery store line, and you can't just grab your groceries and go for a run. You can't just take what's yours and move because you don't feel like, you know, you're feeling uneasy. And you certainly don't punch the grocer in the throat. So social awkwardness. You don't get out of your car when you're stopped at a red light and start doing jumping jacks and stuff. You just sit there and you take it. So anyway, I digress. Bob sees this tiger, fight or flight kicks in, and Bob takes off like a flash. And the first thing Bob's body does is release a wave of adrenaline, and he acts with it. And it goes to his muscles. It makes him more agile. It makes him stronger. It makes his endurance increases, and his perception heightens, right? He's able to see all the little exits everywhere. Does that sound familiar? And while his heart is beating, his muscles are using the blood and using the oxygen and And while he's running, he is breathing, and typically pretty consciously aware that you're taking you're taking big, deep deli breaths. We're taking deli breaths today. I'm leaving these in here. Got to keep you interested. We are taking deep belly breaths and getting a ton of oxygen to our lungs. So Bob escapes with his life, and he gets back to the village, and the first thing Bob needs to do to keep humans alive, to keep man going and mankind going, is to tell everyone what he saw. Well, a tiger looks like this, and it was out there, and it was terrifying, and it could have killed me. It could have killed me. And people have to really feel that fear. They have to connect with that emotion, and they have to listen to him. They really have to bond with him in this moment. Otherwise, you know, all the other characters out there, they're all going to go out and get eaten one by one, or have similar experiences and barely escape with their lives. But the point being is that this body, before language was created, before humans had any kind of technology, and language is a technology, we had the body's technology. So you can believe in whatever you want to believe, but this is the way that we are naturally designed, is to have chemical responses in our body. So these chemical responses, these feelings, need to reward us for survival. Now, what kind of reward feelings are we talking about? Not cortisol, not necessarily adrenaline, but oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. And oxytocin is known as the bonding chemical. And this is the chemical that is released when a mother is breastfeeding her child. That's so that the mom remembers that this is cute and innocent and not a sleep sucking, whatever parents say. It's a tough thing, but you're constantly being given things to want to preserve this kid. I mean, that's why kids are just so beautiful and cute. There's no need for a child to be so eye-catchingly attractive, like some kind of flower or perfect scene, except to keep that innocence and make big dumb man not hurt baby. So just like that, the chemical oxytocin is released when we bond over anything. And what do we bond about today? The same thing Bob was bonding about. We're bonding about what's wrong. We're, hating on the weather or hating our situations. We're high-fiving over negativity. We're high-fiving over shared diagnoses. And this is something that you'll see that I'm very much against. And I see that people do that. And I'm like, quit it. Let's high-five over like what we're going for, what we're working towards. You get this huge picture, right? The looking for exits, the blood pumping really fast, makes you lightheaded because you're not breathing. And breathing is so very important. Really, we're going to do quite a lot of talking on breathing. But what I want you to do is think about how you're breathing normally is probably very tense. And if you don't believe that it is, unless you're taking this for fun because you like looking at my face and you have no anxiety, there is tension that you're holding. If you have tension anywhere in your body, you're holding it somewhere, and you have to learn how to release it. And the best way to learn to release it is through breathing. So ancient Bob is breathing very deeply, and deep belly breathing is how we get more oxygen to the body. And I'm going to tell you about my patented breathing technique in a very soon, maybe even the next video. But what I want you to know is that it becomes a conscious effort. And one of the first things that people talk to me about is that they feel lightheaded and they feel dizzy and they feel like they're going to pass out. And their heart is pumping and it doesn't feel good because they're not breathing. They got to breathe. You have to breathe. When you feel slightly uneasy, just think about breathing first and breathe deep and slow. And we'll talk more about that. So Bob is focusing on his breathing as he's running through the jungle. And the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and the subconscious kicks in and takes care of everything else. So next point is that anxiety is a way of life. It is a how you do things. It is a way. And you can do things in different ways. You can do them with force, or you can do them with, flexibility and looseness and ease. That's what you really want to be focusing on, is how to do things more with ease. You must change your way, or you're always going to have anxiety. Not just your way where you have anxiety, too. Don't just change it, well, I'm only anxious when I'm public speaking, and I'm only anxious when I'm driving. So people come to me and they have all different phobias, every one of them. I promise you, if you have the weirdest one in the world, I've talked to somebody with something weirder. It's not that anxiety is there. It's anxiety is everywhere, but it's manifesting there. So what you have to do is change your way, period. Not just your way with anxiety. And that's what this whole course is about. It's about digging into your life very deeply and who you are and how you've gotten here, so that you can unravel that stuff and see, this is where I'm hanging on too tight, and this is where I'm feeding myself guilt, and this is where I'm feeding myself fear, and all of that comes out in not being able to eat, or not being able to stand up, or not being able to sleep, or not being able to shut the mind off. Or not being able to slow down while you're talking too fast. We must change your way of life. Your body may be in a certain place right now, right? Your mind might be in a certain place right now. But if Lao Tzu was right, which he was when he wrote the Tao, when we correct the mind, the body will follow. It's one of my favorite quotes from Tao Te Ching, and it's all you can control. You have to think first. You start with your mind. You clean out the temple first. And as you clean that out, everything else will follow suit. It just might take some time. So your body needs time to catch up. Weeks, okay? Okay, it needs some time. Your mind needs some time to catch up, not as long. If you stay committed to this journey, are you going to be committed? Let me know. Tell me right now. Keep committed. It's so very important. And as you clean that up, everything else will follow. So back to bonding. A point about bonding here is I want you to take notice on how you bond with other people. I mentioned this before, but are you fearing or complaining or worrying together? It's an addiction. This way that you're doing things is an addiction. It's an addiction to look at what's wrong. It's an addiction to feel and focus on how you're feeling. rather than be there presently with, your spouse or your child who might need that from you at that moment, or rather than being present with yourself. Maybe you need to get to work, maybe you need to have a certain conversation, maybe you need to perform in some kind of way, and you're not focusing on the task at hand because you're focusing on how badly you feel. So you must change this way, this addiction, and it will get easier. Just stick with this. So you could leave every anxiety group behind, every benzo withdrawal group, every PTSD, every survivor, fibro groups, or whatever other support groups you're in, because your eyes are going to be constantly and consistently drawn to the negative. In fact, if you're new to my material or in a fragile place, I recommend that you leave all those groups, or you just unfollow them for 30 days. Unfollow your friend that's negative. Unfollow the news if it's too negative. You'll notice that you might spend 20 seconds reading something that might be good for you. That might be too much. You might spend like 4 seconds skimming through something that's good for you. But if somebody comes on with a story that it rips at your heart and it takes all your attention, you're like, "Oh, how did they go through that? And oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. What if my child did that?" You're going to give it all of your attention, and you're just going to be feeding into this negativity, and you're going to feel it. Sorry, I took acting for a while too. That was probably terrible. You can tell people to join this course once you start seeing results, but for the most part, what I want you to do is just focus on this. The good and the bad, all I want you to do is focus on this. It's going to change your life. What resonated with you in this video? Be sure to take a look at the other comments too, and dig in, like, respond. Don't let anxiety rob you from connecting with somebody, because together we're a lot stronger. Alone, it's a very lonely climb. Trust me, it's very difficult. But if we knit together, it's like by your powers combined. We turn like one person into a steaming freight train, and we'll move a lot quicker and see much better results. So just a simple, yeah, cool. Me too, but don't high five over complaining either. No complaining. And then check my email, and I will see you in the next video.